Hi everyone, welcome to Conversion Conversations. This is Cameron, and I wanted to make a quick video just talking about my favorite deck that I played in the Alpha Trion Protocols Wave 2 format. When I say favorite, it's really the only deck I've played. I played around like some 1 or 2 games with some other stuff, but I just love the Stunticons so much that I've been playing nothing but them for as long as ATP 2 has been the format. I'm excited for Wave 3. I got my cards here. We got our teeny tiny little Sea Spray. There's a couple cool battle cards that I'm really excited for. Outflank seems really interesting. There's Despite Any Difficulty. And then in terms of character cards, like Overlord's a big one I'm really excited for. Bonsai-tron, Wheeljack. I've always loved playing Wheeljacks, and this new one seems like he's going to be awesome to build with some other wreckers. So yeah, I'm excited for ATP 3, but before we start playing those games, I just wanted to give a send-off to ATP 2 by talking about my favorite deck list. This is not the best deck in the format, and this is not the best version of this deck, but this is what I ran, and I had a lot of fun with it. So, if you don't know the Stunticons, normally they're a 5-wide team. You've got 5 bots, you got to flip them all into bot mode, and then you play an Enigma to combine them. In ATP 2, we came out with an alternate Motormaster here. Instead of 5 stars, he's 8 stars. So you start out with a 4-wide team, and then you've got some stars left over. But when you start out with this Motormaster, you get to start out with one of your Stunticons in KO. So he'll come in, usually it's Offroad. He'll come in fully damaged. And then when Motormaster is in bot mode and one of your Stunticons attacks, and they flip a blue and an orange, you get an opportunity to flip them, and that really helps accelerate your combination into Menasor. You've got a Stratagem also. This also helps with acceleration. It gives everyone bold 1. So again, when they're attacking, you got a better chance of flipping a blue and an orange. And then when you combine into Menasor, to combine in Menasor, you can still use an Enigma, or if at the end of your turn everyone's in bot mode, then the Stratagem lets you combine. Then you flip him into Menasor mode, and the Stratagem gives Menasor +1 attack, +5 defense. And then when he has the ability to play 2 actions per turn, that's normal on Menasor. The Stratagem lets you heal for 1 when you play your second action for a turn, as well as gives Menasor the Sturdy ability, reducing the damage he takes by 1, helping him survive a little longer. You play it with Villainous Spotlight, and then I'll show when we get to upgrades the cards that I'm using the star cards for. But this is the team setup, and I think it's a pretty standard team setup. Most people put Offroad in the KO zone. I guess there's unique instances, like maybe against cars or something, where you'd bring Offroad out. But generally, the value of getting to attack with Dragstrip. So let's say, like normally the way I play it, first turn you change Motormaster from alt mode to bot mode. You swing with Dragstrip. They've got bold 1. You get to, if you proc, you get to draw 2 cards, and then you get to flip him. Then when Dead End flips the next turn, you get to draw another card. You're building up your hand to get extra actions in hand to be able to do all the Menasor things you want to do. So now let's get to the battle cards. So in our 40-card battle card deck, it's mostly actions, which is to be expected with Menasor. We get to play 2 a turn. I've got 3 cards that I'm using to help my card draw. Incoming Transmission gets some orange pips in the deck, as well as it lets me draw 2 cards, and I get to put a card on top of the deck list. On top of the deck, you'll see kind of what I tend to put on top if I have the opportunity. Mission Briefing is great. Usually by turn 2, I've got 3 cards in bot mode on the battlefield. If that's the case, Mission Briefing is a +2. Well, it's a +3 on playing a card, which is really awesome. Generally, like you're playing this, before you combine, and then once you've combined, you're dropping this for other cards. In terms of pumps, to make Menasor and the Stunticons hit harder, we've got a lot of pumps here. I'd call Belligerence a pump as well. Heavy-handed, I run this as a 2 of. It pumps for 2 for your little guys, but when you're Menasor, it pumps for 2, and then it gives him Pierce 4, especially against matchups like the Alpha Trion Protocol Soundwave. This is huge. The games that I was able to play 2 of these in a turn and swing for Pierce 9 into Soundwave and not care about the insane defense that he can build with his minicons are huge turns. I play a single Leap in a battle. It's generally a worse version of heavy-handed. Most of the time I find that I'm siding out Leap in a battle for another copy of heavy-handed, but just in case I need that extra +1, I keep a copy in here. Master Metallicato is amazing. Again, it's an orange and a blue, so for that Motormaster trigger, it counts. For most of my guys, so Motormaster here, he is melee in both modes, so it's a blue. For Dragstrip, he is melee in this mode, so if you flip it, and you flip Master Metallicato, you proc, so you get the 2. Then you get to choose to flip if Motormaster is in bot mode. Here he's ranged, but because the pip counts when it first procs in alt mode, this still counts as a melee, not a ranged pip, so you don't get the extra pierce. Breakdown is a specialist, which is interesting, but so for him it counts as an extra attack. And then Dead End is ranged in both modes, so he gets the Pierce. So all your Stunticons love Master Metallicato. It's one of those cards that like you can't afford to not run as a 2 or as a 3 of, just to make sure you get the procs when you need them. Belligerence is a card that I find myself dropping early on. People have told me that's like not the optimal way to play. But I'm much more focused on transforming as quickly as possible, and Belligerence does turn off your ability to proc. So I drop it early on, but then when Menasor swings, playing a Belligerence is wonderful. Then I've got 3 War of Attritions, which every Menasor deck list has. I think this is a pretty typical Menasor deck list. I don't think I'm running anything crazy special. I'm running 3 War of Attritions because, again, when the Menasor Stratagem, when I play more than 1 action, so that second War of Attrition is a heal for 1, I play the third one in a turn, and I'm healing for another 3, so healing for 4 in a turn is very big, and generally I don't care where they put the damage, my opponent will get to pick wherever, but that's okay. To try and turn off whatever my opponent's trying to do, I've got Counter Espionage and Espionage. I found sometimes that I'll side these out, and I don't advise anyone else to. It's just, I tend to screw myself with these cards, because I still need to work on evaluating what my biggest threat is. But I think they're both very powerful cards in the right hands. I've got 3 rollouts. This could be matrices of leadership if you wanted it to be, but basically this is just making sure I've got the blue and orange pips to get my flips. These cards I'll easily swap anytime for any green pip if they're in hand. Then a Catch Off Guard. That, again, is a way to get around the cards that want to protect their own upgrades. Catch Off Guard is a great way to scrap an upgrade effectively without technically scrapping it. And then 3 End Hostilities and 2 Sabotage Armaments as my secret actions. And Hostilities is huge. I don't care about the orange pips on defense. Turning off my opponent's orange pips is amazing. Sabotage Armaments, I ran as a 3 of for a little while. It's down to a 2 of, just to make sure that I've got room for other things. But it's also super important. Cards that I was running that I stopped running now, Reclaim was one. I was trying to be cheeky with Reclaim. There's a couple cards like Reclaim and then put, Ionizer Sword or something on top of the deck to make sure I flip it, things like that. But I found that was just a little too cheeky to try and do. If I had like Menasor and then I had a Reclaim and a Mission Briefing in hand, then hey, put something on top of my deck and then play Mission Briefing to draw it was great. But it didn't happen often enough for me to really feel the value in it, so I ended up dropping it for the other cards. So that is the actions. And then for my upgrades, Handheld Blaster is amazing in this deck list. It's 2 blue pips, which helps my guys survive longer, and the Bold actually helps the Stunticons while they're attacking. Having Bold 2 instead of Bold 1 really helps the triggers. I do not hesitate playing Handheld Blaster earlier in the game. Ionizer Sword are the star cards, And again, they're orange, which Villainous Spotlight lets me play. They are orange blues when you're playing Stunticons. So again, they help accelerate that the transformation, the flipping. You can only put them on Decepticons, but when Menasor is using them, then all of a sudden the rollout flips become card draw, which is a huge help, and it's a +3 attack. I think you play as many of these as you can, and right now the limit is 2. Scoundrel's Blaster, blue-green weapon, lets you get it when you need it. Pierce is super important against targets like Jazz. I flip-flop between Scoundrel's Blaster and Energon Axe, and right now I'm happy with the balance that I have. Getting the green pip versus getting a little extra attack. In terms of armor, I've got a sparring gear, again with end hostilities. The blue pips matter, the tough matters. Getting Menasor to tough 3 makes him a very tough nut to crack. Bashing shield to get rid of my opponent's armor. And then in terms of utilities, I've got 2 energy packs. Menasor loves these. He wants as much health as possible to keep him durable. Pocket processor early on Motormaster, just like that. If I can get a pocket processor on and I can make it stick, it generates so much card advantage. It's huge. I love it. And then I used to run 3 copies of Stunticon Swagger. I've cut them out for other things in the deck list. I find that there are still games where I really, really want them, but not every game. So when I get Stunticon Swagger in hand, again, this was another card that I could reclaim. And maybe, like talking about it now, maybe I put Reclaim back in the sideboard. I don't know. But Stunticon Swagger is still a very, very powerful utility. And since he's Menasor's signature utility and it's really strong, I still run it as a one of. So that was the battle deck. That was the main characters. Here is my current sideboard and my thoughts with it. I run a second pocket processor just in case I find myself in a mirror match or something where I just need to generate a little more card advantage. I run a third Scoundrel's Blaster if I find that my opponent is scrapping my weapons pretty readily. I'll swap out the Energon Axe for the Scoundrel's Blaster just so I can find it on flips easier. I run a second Espionage, 2 Believe in Battles. These get sided in against Superion or against Menasor because I'm not getting the value off heavy-handed. Hold the Line against Titan Masters. These are ones that I might drop down to a one of. I'm not 100% sure. I do run a third heavy-handed. Sometimes I feel like I'd rather just swap that one out instead of the Leap into Battles. I'll do that, but this is a card I could see myself dropping, or maybe one of the Leap into Battles dropping out of the sideboard for another copy of Computer Sabotage. I think it's been a long time since anyone's seen this card, but it's awesome in this deck list. I've been tempted to make it main, but I don't think it needs to be main. Against decks that generate a lot of card draw, Fire Drive decks, Soundwave decks, other Menasor decks, being able to just pare their hand down from, 12 cards sometimes back down to 3 is so huge and feels so good. And against the mirror, I think it's super important. I could see myself dropping a Leap into Battle for another Computer Sabotage. And then a third Sabotage Armaments. This is another one I could see myself dropping, maybe. I feel like the 2 is fine. Maybe I put in a second Computer Sabotage and then put in, instead of Sabotage Armaments, I put in a Reclaim just in case I do want to try and do cheeky stuff. And then I replace something for Hold the Line. But yeah, that's where the deck list is at, and it's a ton of fun. If you haven't played it, what I'd say is anyone who feels like combiners can't keep up in the Titan Master meta hasn't been playing the Alpha Trion protocols, and I highly, highly recommend you check out this deck list and the ATP cards. It's been really, really great. Some cards that I've been thinking about putting in now that ATP 3 has dropped. Armored Assault isn't one that I think I'd put in a ton, but I really like the idea of maybe Aura of Dominance finds a way in if I'm still struggling against decks. Instead of the energy pack, I put in an Aura of Dominance. Gives me bold 1, gives me tough 1, gives me 2 health still. And then if I'm in a mirror match and I'm fighting against another combiner or a big bot, then it helps me scrap more cards off of their bot and out of their hand. despite any difficulty I think could come in. Actually, I should say definitely comes in. It's a mixed pip deck. Odds are most turns I'm flipping 2, probably 3 colors. This is a black and a blue, and then when Menasor or someone defends, the defender gets +1 at the end of battle for each different color. So it's essentially, kind of a pocket Master Metallicato, but on the defensive side. Dogfight, obviously, like that doesn't, Harpoon Gun, those don't do anything in this particular deck list. But I think despite any difficulty, definitely comes in. Not necessarily outflank because Menasor is not a specialist. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to upgrade this with the ATP 3 cards. And then I'm going to brew some new ATP 3 stuff. And I hope to catch everyone soon and play some games with y'all. All right, have a great day, everyone. Talk to you later.